My little sister, 12, was given 1 to 3 weeks to live. Things I did to make her enjoy her last days. The doctor's words still ring in my ears. She has 1 to 3 weeks left. My little sister, only 12 years old, was sitting on the hospital bed when he said it, swinging her legs as if she was just waiting for recess to be over. I wanted to scream, to argue, to beg, but all I could do was sit there, frozen, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. She didn't even cry. She just looked at me with those wide brown eyes and asked, "Does that mean I don't have to do homework anymore?" That was the moment I realized how unprepared I was. How do you make the last days of a child's life count? How do you take every dream, every laugh, every memory, and fit them into a couple of weeks? I was 21, and suddenly I felt smaller than her. I wanted to promise her the world, but the truth was, I didn't know if I could even manage a piece of it. And then she whispered something that shook me even deeper, something I didn't dare repeat to anyone else yet. But before I tell you what she said, I need to go back. This whole nightmare started about 3 months ago. My sister, who I'll call Lily here, was always the energetic one. She loved running around the house, blasting silly songs on her tablet, trying to braid my hair even though she wasn't very good at it. She had this way of making everyone laugh without even trying. But one day, she complained that her legs felt weak. At first, we thought maybe she was just growing, or maybe she twisted something while playing. But then came the fevers, the fatigue, the bruises that wouldn't heal. I remember the day Mom rushed her to the ER. I wasn't even home. I was at my part-time job, stocking shelves when I got the call. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already surrounded by nurses, tubes in her arms, her small frame swallowed by the white sheets. That was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. The diagnosis came a week later, an aggressive cancer that had already spread. The doctors tried to be gentle, but their words were sharp enough to cut through steel. They said treatments might buy time, but it was unlikely to cure. Lily listened quietly while Mom cried, and Dad stared at the floor like he wanted to fall through it. I tried to be strong. I told myself I had to be strong, for her. And for a while I thought maybe we had a chance. She fought. She endured treatments that would have broken most adults. She still smiled when she could, though her hair fell out and her skin turned pale. I kept telling her she was brave, even when she whispered to me that she was tired. Then came the final appointment, the one where the doctor looked at us differently, softer, almost pitying. That's when he said the words, 1 to 3 weeks. Lily didn't flinch. She just looked at me, and later when Mom stepped out to talk with the nurse, Lily leaned close and whispered in my ear, "I don't want to be sad these last days. Promise me it'll be fun. Promise me you'll make it fun." I nodded, but inside I was breaking. Because how do you promise fun to someone whose body is betraying them every day? How do you balance the reality of hospitals and medications with the wish for joy? How do you say yes when you don't even know what's possible? That night, I sat in my room staring at the ceiling, thinking of everything she might want to do. Disney movies? A trip somewhere? Ice cream for dinner every night? I didn't know where to start. All I knew was that time was slipping like sand through my fingers, and if I didn't act fast, I'd fail her. The first thing I did was make a list. I wrote down every little thing she loved. Cartoons, painting, pancakes, puppies, singing at the top of her lungs. Then I started brainstorming ways to bring those things into her last days. I knew I couldn't fix what was happening, but maybe, just maybe, I could make her forget it for a little while. I thought things would go smoothly once I had a plan. But the very next morning, I woke up to a sound that nearly stopped my heart, Lily screaming in pain. And that was the moment everything changed again. Her scream cut through the house like glass shattering. I ran into her room barefoot, not even realizing I'd stubbed my toe on the doorframe until much later. She was curled up in bed, clutching her stomach, her face pale and wet with tears. For a second, I froze because it didn't look like my sister. She looked like a stranger trapped in her own body. Mom was already there, fumbling with her phone, trying to call the on-call nurse. Dad was pacing in the hallway like he wanted to punch a hole through the wall. I climbed onto the bed and held her hand. It was shaking so badly I thought her fingers might snap. "Breathe with me, Lily," I whispered, forcing my own lungs to slow down. "Just breathe." The nurse told Mom to bring her in immediately, so within 20 minutes, we were back in the car, speeding toward the hospital. Every bump in the road made her wince. I kept telling her it would be okay, though even as I said it, I didn't believe it. At the hospital, they gave her morphine. I watched the medicine drip into her veins, and I hated it. Hated that she needed it. Hated that this was what her life had become, measuring time in dosages instead of days. But when the medicine kicked in and her breathing eased, she gave me the faintest smile before drifting to sleep. Those words hit me harder than anything. I realized I couldn't just react to what was happening anymore. I had to get ahead of it. If I wanted to give her joy, I had to fight for it, even if it meant bending rules, even if it meant making mistakes. The next few days, I threw myself into it. I turned our living room into a mini movie theater. Blankets on the floor, Christmas lights strung across the walls, bowls of popcorn bigger than her head. We binge-watched every animated movie she ever loved. She laughed so hard during one silly scene that I thought maybe, just maybe, I could keep my promise. One night, I stayed up late, searching online for bucket list ideas for kids with terminal illness. Some people talked about trips to Disney, meeting celebrities, going to the beach. But we didn't have money for all that, and time was too short. I felt defeated until I realized it wasn't about big things. It was about her things, the things that made Lily, Lily. So I planned a yes day. Anything she asked, I would say yes. She wanted pancakes for dinner? Yes. Wanted to paint my face with glitter? Yes. Wanted to stay up till 3 in the morning singing karaoke with a plastic hairbrush? Yes. By the end, she was so tired she fell asleep on my shoulder, but she whispered, "Best day ever." And for the first time since the diagnosis, I felt like I wasn't failing her. But of course, peace never lasted long. Because 2 nights later, I walked past her room and heard her crying again. Not from pain this time, but from something deeper. I cracked the door and froze when I heard what she was saying to herself in the dark. She wasn't talking about movies or pancakes. She was whispering something about being scared of where she was going, about not wanting to leave me, about knowing Mom and Dad would be okay, but I wouldn't. And the worst part? She was right. I stood outside her door, my hand hovering over the knob, my throat burning with unshed tears. I didn't want her to know I'd heard. I didn't want to barge in and make her feel like her private fears were being stolen from her. But I also couldn't walk away. So I pushed the door open slowly and whispered, "Lily?" She gasped and wiped her face quickly like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "I'm fine," she said, her voice thin and shaky. "No, you're not," I said, sitting down on the edge of her bed. The nightlight painted her face in soft gold, but her eyes were swollen and red. I reached for her hand, and for a moment she resisted, but then she let me hold it. "I heard you," I admitted. "I heard what you said." She buried her face in her pillow. "I don't want to talk about it." But I couldn't let it go. "Lily, you said you were scared, that you didn't want to leave me." My voice cracked on the last word. She turned her face toward me, and the look in her eyes nearly broke me in half. She looked older than 12 in that moment, like she had lived lifetimes of pain in the past few months. "You're my best friend," she whispered. "When I'm gone, who will laugh at your dumb jokes? Who will sing badly with you? Who will braid your hair badly?" I laughed through tears, but she wasn't done. "You're going to be all alone," she said. "Mom and Dad will have each other. But you always sit with me. You'll be the one left behind." Her words sliced through me. She was the one dying, yet she was worried about me. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to lie, to tell her I'd be fine, but the truth was, I wasn't sure. I couldn't imagine walking past her empty room, hearing silence where there used to be laughter. So instead, I hugged her tight and whispered, "I'll carry you with me, always. You won't ever really leave me." She was quiet for a long time, then finally asked, "Can you prove it?" "Prove it?" I repeated. She nodded, her eyes glimmering in the dim light. "Promise me you'll do something for me after I'm gone. Something big, something that means I'm still here with you." I didn't even hesitate. "Yes, anything." She smiled faintly, but then she said something I wasn't prepared for, something that made me sit back in shock. She told me exactly what she wanted me to do. And it wasn't small, it wasn't simple, it was something that would change everything. When she first said it, I thought I misheard. "I want you to finish my list," Lily whispered, her small voice trembling like a candle flame. "Your what? List?" I asked, blinking at her in confusion. She nodded and slid her little notebook from under her pillow. The pink cover was frayed, the spiral bent, but when she put it in my hands, I felt the weight of it like it was made of stone. "Open it," she said. Inside, the first page had a title scribbled in glitter pen, "Lily's Big Adventure List." I turned the pages, and my chest tightened with every line. Go on a roller coaster, eat ice cream for breakfast, dance in the rain until I'm soaked, watch the sunrise at the beach, meet my favorite YouTuber, sing in front of people, not just in my room, see snow for the first time. The list went on. 23 things in total. Some simple, some impossible. My throat closed up as I read. She must have been making this list for months, quietly holding on to dreams she knew she'd never get to see. "I can't finish these," I whispered, my eyes blurring. "You can. You have to. For me. So I'm not really gone. When you do them, I'll be there." I stared at her, half shattered, half in awe. She wasn't asking me to remember her in silence, or to sit in grief forever. She was asking me to live. But then came the part that really shook me. She leaned in closer and lowered her voice. "There's one thing on the list I never wrote down, because it's the scariest one." My heart thudded. "What is it?" She hesitated, her eyes darting like she was afraid even to say it. Then she whispered, "I want you to find out the truth about Mom and Dad, about what they're hiding from me." I froze. What do you mean, hiding? Lily's face crumpled. They don't tell me everything. About how bad it is. About what's going to happen. I hear them whispering at night. I know there's something they're not saying. You are the only one I trust to find out. Promise me. The room seemed to tilt. My parents had been so careful, so guarded, always stepping out of the room for doctor calls and always insisting Lily didn't need to know the scary parts. But to have her ask me to uncover the truth for her, it terrified me. Yet, when I looked at her, pale, fragile, yet still burning with that stubborn spark, I couldn't refuse. "I promise," I whispered. She smiled faintly and leaned back against her pillows, her eyes closing. "Good, now you'll have a mission." But inside, my heart was pounding, because I knew if Lily was right, then keeping this promise might tear our family apart, and I didn't know if I was strong enough to face what I might find. I didn't sleep that night. Lily's notebook sat on my lap long after she drifted off, the weight of her secret request pressing down on me. My parents had been whispering for weeks, shielding her from the full truth, and now I had promised to dig it out. The next morning, while Lily rested, I waited until Mom and Dad went into the kitchen. I slipped down the hall and into their room. My hands were shaking as I opened drawers, scanned papers, pulled open folders. Most of it was bills and boring documents, until I found a thick envelope at the back of Dad's nightstand. The label on the front made my stomach drop. Treatment timeline, confidential. I sat on the floor and spread the papers out. And then I saw it. The truth. Her doctors hadn't given her 1 to 3 weeks. They had given her days. 3, maybe 4. My parents knew. They'd known for almost 2 weeks. They hadn't told her. They hadn't told me. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook so hard the papers rattled. My parents walked in at that moment and froze when they saw me. "What are you doing?" Mom's voice was sharp, panicked. I couldn't even look at them. "You lied to her," I choked out. "You lied to me. You let her believe she had weeks when she only has days." Dad's face went pale. Mom reached for the papers, but I clutched them to my chest. I shouted, "She asked me. She knows something's wrong. She begged me to find out, and now I know. How could you keep this from her? How could you steal her last days of truth?" For the first time, they didn't try to argue. They just stood there, silent, caught. And that silence was worse than any words. I ran back to Lily's room, clutching the envelope. I wanted to tell her everything, to show her I'd kept my promise. But when I pushed the door open, she was sitting up in bed, her wide eyes on me. She whispered, "I heard you. All of it." The paper slipped from my hands. My knees went weak. She already knew. And the look on her face wasn't anger. It wasn't even fear. It was betrayal. "You promised," she said softly. "You promised you'd tell me." I realized then it wasn't just about the truth. It was about trust. And in trying to protect her, in waiting even a moment too long, I might have already broken the one thing she needed most from me. Lily passed 2 days later. She never looked at me the same way again after that night. Not with anger, but with something worse. Quiet distance. At the funeral, Mom and Dad clutched each other, whispering the same old reassurances, the same soft lies. But in the back of my jacket pocket, I carried Lily's notebook. The last page, the one she'd never written on, was no longer blank. In her shaky handwriting, I found a single sentence written the night before she died. "You broke your promise. I never told anyone how it got there. And I never will."